2 years before the horrific Boston Marathon bombing, another despicable act took place in the city of Waltham. Officially listed as unsolved, here's what's suspected. In 2011, Tamerlan Tsarnaev, one of the 2 marathon bombers, allegedly partook in a triple murder. That's the subject of a new book from journalist Susan Clare Zalkind, aptly named The Waltham Murders. She joins us now with the story of her decade-long hunt for the truth. Susan, my fingerprints are all over this book. For those that might not be aware, what is the connection between the murders in Waltham and the Boston Marathon bombing?
Thank you so much for reading, Segun. Well, the connection is that Tamerlan Tsarnaev bombed the Boston Marathon, and 18 months before that, he was behind a horrific triple homicide in Waltham.
The 3 were found covered in marijuana and cash.
Described as a bloodbath.
Now, the case is officially unsolved, but the evidence overwhelmingly suggests that Tamerlan Tsarnaev and another individual, Ibrahim Tadashev, were behind this crime. Now, one of the victims was Brendan Mess. He was a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He was friends and sparring partners with Tamerlan Tsarnaev, who was a boxer, and along with Ibrahim Tadashev, they all worked out at the same gym. So 18 months before the Boston Marathon bombing, Tamerlan Tsarnaev slit 3 people's throats, left marijuana on 2 of the bodies, and $5,000 cash at the scene of the crime.
So there are cold cases and unsolved mysteries all of the time. Why you? Why this story? What is your connection to all of this?
Well, this case has a tremendous amount of impact. We're talking about the Boston Marathon bombing. And had this case been solved, had Tamerlan Tsarnaev been apprehended, then perhaps the bombing would never have happened. Now, I was working my first job out of college at a local TV station when news about this homicide crossed the wire. It was the most unusual triple homicide I had ever heard of at the time. I began looking into it, and then I found out that one of the victims had been my friend, Eric Wiseman.
So you find out that one of the victims is a friend of yours, and here we still sit with an unsolved murder case. How is that possible?
Well, there's another part to this story as well. Now, after the bombing, Ibrahim Tadashev was questioned in his own home in Florida in an interview involving 3 members of law enforcement, an FBI agent, and 2 Massachusetts state troopers. Now, what my reporting lays out clearly is that the Middlesex DA, the same office that was in charge of the homicide investigation in 2011, all the way up until today, was calling the shots in this interview, in which a trained fighter with a hair-trigger temper was confronted with evidence about his involvement in this gruesome triple homicide. And rather than arrest him after he confessed, the instructions from the Middlesex office were to let him to continue to move around the apartment freely for another hour and a half, when predictably, Ibrahim Tadashev snapped, he attacked the men in the room, and an FBI agent shot him dead.
FBI sources say Ibrahim Tadashev was unarmed when an FBI agent shot and killed him during questioning at this Orlando apartment. Law enforcement officials say Tadashev was in the process of confessing to a 2011 triple murder in Boston.
Now, there are questions about what Ibrahim Tadashev said. He apparently confessed. His confession matched the evidence at the murder. But the case is officially open because the Middlesex DA won't release any information not only about the homicide case, but their own involvement. They've never been held accountable for this, the killing of Ibrahim Tadashev.
Well, then let's talk about accountability, because this is where I get confused in it all, right? Crime and punishment, right? You have a confession, there is a crime that has been committed. We want justice. The public wants justice for the slain man, and also the public wants to feel safe that the crime has been solved. You add on to it the aftermath where the participant also took part in the Boston Marathon bombing. Where is the accountability from the Middlesex DA's office? What is going on?
Well, the DA has been vague not only about the triple homicide, but about their own involvement in the case. Let's back up. Let's do a timeline here. 2011, this is a Middlesex case. They missed crucial leads, including individuals who gave them Tamerlan Tsarnaev's name in connection to this homicide. They don't question many of the victims' associates, even after questions are raised about the personal nature of this crime, all the way up to the Boston Marathon bombing, when the Middlesex DA conducts this interview that leaves an individual dead. A decade later, the Middlesex DA is saying that the case continues to be open and active, despite evidence, after I've talked to people, that they still are not pursuing obvious leads, right? But because an FBI agent killed Ibrahim Tadashev, thus far, all of the attention and the outrage about this shooting death has gone to the FBI. Meanwhile, the Middlesex DA has sidestepped all accountability. Now, Commonwealth Beacon and Lawyers Weekly caught up with the DA recently in response to my reporting. The DA continued to put forth that the case is open and active, and she pointed to other cold cases that the office has solved, including one case that was 50 years old. The DA says that, 10 years, that's not so long. Look, sometimes it takes 50 years to solve a murder case. I think that's very concerning.
But why? Why the dragging of the feet, in your mind, by law enforcement and the DA's office?
I mean, I think the DA is hesitant to take accountability for letting Tamerlan Tsarnaev slip through their fingers.
Wow. So let's talk about accountability again, because your book holds people accountable by unearthing new information. So with that information now available to journalists, the public, where does this case stand?
I think now people are going to be able to ask the right questions. And the right questions should be directed to Middlesex District Attorney Marion T. Ryan. Now, the book raises serious questions about the murders and also about the overlap between the criminal milieu of members of law enforcement tasked with investigating this case and the victims, who were marijuana dealers at a time when that was illegal. Now, there could be other explanations for why the DA didn't aggressively pursue leads before the bombing, but the DA has yet to provide that explanation.
Susan Clare Zalkind, author of The Waltham Murders, thank you so much for your work in this and joining us here today.
Thank you so much for having me and for asking the right questions.
For daily access to Boston Globe Today, all segments and episodes are available on demand in the Boston Globe app by clicking Watch.